Sociological Association and Albanian Institute of Sociology to give her speech on some contemporary issues of sociology of inclusion and special needs. Welcome, dear professor. I'm so glad to see you here. You can share your screen.
Yeah, I try to share my...
Professor, if your slides are open on the desktop, you can, directly choose your PPT axis from the share screen button at the bottom of the screen. If you could see, there is a green button at the bottom of the screen. Once you click on it, you can choose your slides. Then we'll be able to see your screen. Is it okay at the moment? There is a green button on your Zoom screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you have to click click the green button, which is share screen button.
On
yes,
one,
once you click
multiply,
on it.
advanced.
So we have, mute, stop video, security, participants, chat, and share screen buttons at the bottom of our screen.
Hocam, isterseniz ben hocaya Arnavutça anlatayım. Profesore, në fund të ekranit keni një share screen që është jeshile, po në qoftë se ju klikoni atë, po mundohem të bëj dhe unë, do t'ju dalin disa si kuti, desktop një, ose të gjitha dritare që keni të hapura në kompjuter, në qoftë se...
Një pjesëmarrës apo multiply?
Një.
One.
Po.
PPTX aynı anda açık olursa direkt onu seçebilir Lauracığım. Hocaya belki yapabilirsin.
Söyledim.
Tamam, peki.
Profesore, keni hapur PowerPoint'in?
Bağlantısı mı koptu acaba hocamızın?
Bağlantısı. Geliyor.
Sorry.
Profesore, në qoftë se klikoni direkt tek ajo shigjeta, jo tek ajo nane që tregon ato dy opsione, direkt në mes, do të jetë më thjeshtë.
Host disabled for participant screen sharing.
Hocam, yetki verebilir miyiz lütfen?
Özgü hocam, bizi duyuyor musunuz acaba?
Hocamıza
verebilirsek seviniriz.
Okay.
Tekrar girdi çıktı çünkü. Verildi. Verildi ama sanırım
verildi. Profesor, tani mund ta ndani.
Sorry, Laura. With desktop, whiteboard, iPhone, iPad, un kam Mac. iPhone, iPad via cable, so...
Ju keni... Në qoftë se keni prezantimin e hapur në PowerPoint, duhet ju dal direkt atje. Ose në qoftë se doni ma dërgoni mua të hapun.
Ja, po përpiqem të bëj këtë gjë. E kam sigurisht.
Şey mi, ekranda mı çıkmıyor diyor opsiyonlar?
Evet. Yani olmazsa bana göndersin.
Evet, mail atabilir miyiz acaba? Sen direkt açarsan zamandan da kazanmış oluruz Lauracığım. Hocamız atabilirse sana belki sunumu.
Profesor, në qoftë se dëshironi mund të ma...
Ja, po ta çoj sepse që të mos...
Në rregull, po.
Sorry for the...
No problem.
That's fine, no problem at all.
No problem.
You're fine.
mail atıyor zannediyorum değil mi hocamız
Evet,
şu an?
evet hocam.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Yes,
Thank you for the possibilities to talk about the some contemporary issues of the inclusive education and special needs education. I came from University of Corcia, Albania, from Department of Education, and I want to talk about these very important problems because are important also in global, national or local levels this issue. Also, I want to beginning with the introduction of this paper that can we state that in 1994 World Conference on Special Needs Education held in Salamanca, Spain, conclude with what is now commonly known as the Salamanca Statement. The statement called open governments and the international community to endorse and prioritize inclusive education policy and practice, and to work together to support and expand provision. And the problem beginning first with recognizing that children with special education needs should be educated within regular, or as it's called in some countries, mainstream education systems. And the Salamanca Statement issued a global challenge to the very potent and commonly held idea that children with special education needs do not belong in mainstream schools or general education systems. A product of its time, the statement was predicated on the idea that regular schools are the most effective means of combating discriminatory attitudes, creating welcoming communities, building an inclusive society, and achieving education for all. Moreover, they provide an effective education to the majority of the children and improve the efficiency and ultimately cost effectiveness of the entire education system. In addition, it linked the education of children with special needs to the education for all. EFA movement that had been launched at the 1990 World Conference on Education for All in Thailand by recognizing the necessity and urgency of providing education for all children, youth and adults with special education needs within the regular education system. Also, Salamanca rights-based anti-discriminatory stance was primarily in support of learners with special needs. The idea of an inclusive educational system where all were welcome and no one was excluded had brought a path. Over time, the conceptualization of inclusive education was broadened to encompass anyone who might be excluded from or have limited access to the general education system within a country. In this way, Salamanca foreshadowed current ideas of inclusive education as being about everyone.
And Professor, by the way,
Yes.
sorry for interrupting. Laura was able to open your PDF, the slide.
Yes.
Are you able to see? She's sharing at the moment.
Yes, of course, thanks.
Yes, if you can tell me which slide are you talking about right now?
Yes, I can in the slide 2.
The second?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you make it full screen, please?
Yes, I'm trying.
F5?
Yes, okay.
All right.
It's fine now. Yeah, if you just can let me know to change the slides.
Yes, very peaceful image that must understand the attitudes for all the children. The inclusive education can understand as education for all children. Also, accordingly to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 4, or states this: ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Additionally, the Brussels Declaration that followed the 2080 Global Education Meeting clearly embraced this expanded idea of inclusion in education by defining it as the right to safe, quality education and learning through life that requires particular attention by giving to those in vulnerable situations, persons with disabilities, indigenous peoples, those in remote rural areas, ethnic minorities, the poor, women and girls, migrants, refugees, and displaced persons, whether as a result of conflict or natural disaster. The concept of inclusive education promoted by Salamanca and his call for an education system that is response to diverse needs and known as global reach. It underpins today's in the time of COVID-19 and the effects of this in all society, developed and poor countries, is very important to underline the statements of this global international organization and the declaration of this conference about the importance of inclusive education and also of the spatial education. The International Standard Classification of Education defines special needs education as that which is designed to facilitate learning by individuals who, for a wide variety of reasons, require additional support and adaptive pedagogical methods in order to participate and meet learning objectives in an education program. This definition focuses on additional support and adaptive pedagogical methods is a hallmark of the special needs education. Its positions special needs education as a resource-based response that is provided when individual learners require something different from or additional to what is an offer to everyone else. But different terminology is used in different national contexts. A child or young person is commonly considered to have special needs. If he or she has a learning difficulty and/or a disability that requires support that is additional from or different to that which is ordinarily available to others of similar age. For many years in many countries, special needs education was understood as that which was provided in special school or classes. In other words, it was the place where special needs education occurred separate from what was provided to everyone else. In today's world, the engine of education's normative center is driven by international competition that places a premium on high academic standards and the skills thought to produce economic advantage in the marketplace. Competition between students, schools, and jurisdictions rank over the students, standardized achievement test, schools, school inspection, and the performance, international comparison test of student performance by countries, like PISA or so. And this poses a serious equity problem for schools that are more diverse than ever before in terms of ethnicity, culture, language spoken, disability status, and so forth. While it can be argued that equity demands that differentiated approach are needed to accommodate individual differences between learners, such approaches create problems when the inherent bias within bell curve thinking produce and reinforce school structure that are designed for most students on the ground that something different can be available to some. However, special needs education reproduces exclusion because it is positioned at the margin of education's normative center. Inclusive education, as it states, commencing from question about the efficacy of special needs education and its underlying assumption, practice, and outcome. So, inclusive education offered an alternative based on a principled approach that specified local schools should provide for all learners as an alternative approach. If it's possible, in the first with some dictionary approach about K first.
Should I change the slides?
At the beginning of the
first slide?
The second.
The second? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I went too far. Okay. So
yeah.
This one. Okay. Okay, great.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Also, today, the process that have become associated with inclusive education are varied as are its outcomes. Consequently, inclusive education is a concept with disagreements in the literature about how it should be defined. And we have some definition about K words or K phrases that we have treat or write. About the problems with global, national, or local treatment of inclusive and special education. As right in the literature, identified systemic barriers in the education system and connected professional education for different levels of school staff, lack of competencies for the inclusive education, and concern that faculty-based teacher education lack the knowledge needed to develop effective pre-service programs as challenges for the development of teacher education for inclusion in the Western Balkans. Clearly, these issues are of broad relevance across regions, and the regional and intra-regional response that are developed with reflect cultural and socio-economic differences, as well as difference in national teaching qualification and preparation of teachers. In national levels, in recent years, a growing number of teacher educators around the world have begun to describe some initiatives and articulate their ideas about how teacher education for inclusion might progress. And within countries, a range of approaches have been described. For example, Bartolo explained how a right-based approach to initial teacher education in courses in Malta, formerly focused on handicaps in learning, were replaced with those that focus on the removing barriers to learning and responding to student diversity. And in the United States, efforts to move teacher education towards a more unified or holistic approach to preparing all teachers that has focused on the development of collaborative approaches that increase the special education knowledge of general education teachers and ensure that special education teachers have sufficient background in academic content knowledge. Also, I want to speak about the development in local level, and especially for this reality in our university, in our department. Department of Education have the good experience of reorganize programs for preparative of teachers in the base of the national strategy for the development of education 2040-2020, and one most important pillar of this national strategy is qualitative and inclusive education. And in this September 2060, the Institute for Development of Education published the professional standards for general in Albania, for general education and content of primary education, and for this development prepare 7 standards that are specified in this document, including Standard 3, Inclusive Education Format. Department of Education at the University of Korçë, Albania, offers programs in bachelor levels, teaching in primary school and teaching in pre-elementary education, and also education for nurses or educators of this level in the professional level. Also, we have developed this program in collaboration with the Department of Education Giovanni Maria Bertin at the University Alma Mater of Bologna. And in this stage of our work, we have prepared also conference or workshop with students and teachers for presented these programs, and also study of the members of the department in this 3 level: elementary or programs, bachelor in elementary teachers education, preschool education, and early childhood education, with aims to create a professional figure of the teachers with preparation in the inclusive and special needs education. Also, I want to evaluate this development of work in our department, and also to
Professor, just would like to make a remind you that we only have 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
So would it be okay to wrap up a bit? Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, we only have 2 minutes left. I'm sorry about this. So, you know, I don't want to interrupt you because it's going so well, but we only have 2 minutes left. So just to let you know, thank you.
Okay. I want to thank you, and if I have some question, I'm open to her and to response.
Thank you very much to Associate Professor Dr. Irena Nikash. She's a president of the Albanian Sociological Association and Albanian Institute of Sociology. So thank you very much to her. It was a great honor for us to welcome her to our conference. So we wonder whether there are any questions from the floor for the professor. Are there any questions? Or any comments?
I'm really sorry, I had some technical issues.
Yes,
I'm really sorry.
That's totally okay, because we might, this happens, this is quite normal.
Yes, this happens in an online.
This is a live
yes.
conference, so